Hey, welcome to the Manumit podcast with Glenn Johnson, the registered investment advisor here, who's going to give you some wisdom about how to handle your finances. I'm Doug Turnbull, and Jeff was a great host of this show here. It has moved on to different things, and they've invited me back on here to be with Glenn Johnson, and we're so glad to have you on. And it's Friday the 13th, Glenn. We don't care anything about superstitions, right? We're here to get right to it. How you doing?
Fantastic, and that's absolutely right. I couldn't care less about the date.
Well, we'll just erase that one right off the board.
Okay.
But Glenn, of course, runs JBez Financial, jbezfinancial.com, and you can also get the rest of these episodes if you just had this forwarded to you from a friend or so at theManumitPodcast.com. Bookmark, subscribe that, like it, heck, write a review. We wanted more people to know some of this great knowledge here that you have, Glenn. And you have such a unique name of the podcast, and I know in earlier episodes you explained the meaning of Manumit, but I was thinking, Manumit, what kind of animal is that? Or is that a monument? What does Manumit mean? And I was so happy to learn what it meant. So can you explain why you named this podcast that?
Absolutely. In 2016, I formed a nonprofit organization, and I named it Manumit United. Manumit is actually an Old English word that means to set free or to free from slavery. Like when the slaves were freed, they were given papers of manumission. They were manumitted. And I formed the nonprofit organization to provide financial education, personal and professional development, and teach the wisdom keys surrounding entrepreneurship so people can build a better life for themselves and create more freedom. And I have a program where I talk about the 5 F's, referring to the faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances. And in each of those areas, to a greater or lesser degree, we could all have more freedom. And that's going to only come with an increase of wisdom. So the nonprofit organization about being Manumit United, that's what I want to do. I want to provide the information people need in a way that they can apply it to increase their quality of life.
And not just in the nonprofit, but of course in the business, JBez Financial as well. Some people say, more money, more problems. And sure, if you don't manage it correctly, of course, more problems, and certainly the more money you have, the more things to manage. But with the right wisdom, well, you could certainly have that financial freedom that you need, especially in the retirement years. Now, I want to get to the name of the business here because this is big. JBez Financial. I remember growing up in high school or so, it being really popular, the prayer Jabez, and it's in 1 Chronicles 4, verses 9 and 10, or we'll just go right to verse 10, where Jabez cried out to the God of Israel, "Oh, that you have blessed me and enlarged my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm so that I will be free from pain." And by the way, Jabez's mother named it that because it hurt a lot giving birth to him. I know you didn't name
That's
Jabez
right.
Financial after childbearing pains, right? But
No.
Tell me about the inspiration between that verse and how you came up with your company.
Well, the idea is embracing pain in the sense that in the pursuit of wisdom invariably involves pain. And the more pain you're able to endure, the more wisdom you're able to accumulate. And that's because, it's said that the truth hurts, right?
Oh, yes.
And the truth does hurt because it involves pain, emotional pain. And if we want to improve our lives, we have to be able to get better at embracing the pain that comes with growth.
No pain, no gain, as they say. I'm going to come at you with all the cliches, all right? You've got the wisdom, I've got the cliches. So no pain, no gain for sure. And let's get into that there because we got a great topic today, harder times, better times. And I feel like this goes right hand in hand with exactly what you were saying. No, there's a lot of unrest in the world right now. It seems like there's never been a time where we haven't said there's a lot of unrest, but certainly with election on people's mind, different wars, what's the economy going to do? There is a way to end up, not guaranteeing it, of course, but there is a way to end up on the right side of this.
Absolutely. When we talk about harder times, better times, well, first, the first component being harder times and recognizing that as life goes on, the severity of the challenges and the adversities we face will always become more severe. As a child, if they're coloring with a crayon and you rip the crayon out of their hand, they start crying. Why? Because that's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to them. And now as an adult...
I haven't had a crayon problem in a long time there, Glenn.
Right. Well,
I hear what you're saying.
But if I'm writing something on a piece of paper and you rip my pen out of my hand, I'm just going to think, boy, well, I guess he needed the pen. There's no offense taken. So eventually, at the end of the road, we face death. The problems that we face continue to get more severe. So when facing an increasing collection of severe and more severe adversities, how do we look forward to the future with optimism, thinking that life is actually, and believing that life will actually get better? And there's a direct relationship between the adversities you face and your skill set and being able to handle them.
Well, I think, yeah, you got to have the skill set to handle them. That's right. This isn't a pipe dream. This isn't just be positive and go run down the streets and everything will be fine. There really is a method to that. So how do you, Glenn, at JBez Financial give people specifically on the financial side the tools they need to be in that right mindset, to be able to make those correct decisions?
It's a matter of being prepared. When you're prepared for something, once it shows up, it takes the emotional sting out of it. That's kind of, I think I've said earlier, like when I was in high school and they had the people wanted to go to a party and start drinking. And well, I decided never to drink, even at a young age. And so because I had made up my mind, I never experienced any kind of peer pressure. When someone offered me a drink, I'd just say, oh no, I don't drink. And they'd say, okay. But the indecisiveness of saying, well, I don't know. Well, then it's like, oh, come on, you can have one, and so we open ourselves up to more pressure if we're not prepared in the kind of decisions that we're going to make before it arises. So financially, when we know we're facing financial hardship in the future, the one of those hardships being at some point, and oftentimes at a point of that's not our choosing, we stop working. At some point in our future, we lose the physical or mental ability to continue producing. And so when that day comes, are we adequately prepared to make sure that we still have the cash flow to meet our needs?
And by the way, it's best not to even ask that question at age 62 or 65, but maybe before, but certainly when you get to those ages, you hopefully have taken some steps over time, proactive steps, not just automatic ones, to make that happen, right?
Well, just like physically, sometimes people, they may find themselves in a position where I refer to as financially terminal. That it's just too late. You've passed that point. And so, I mean, we look back and say, okay, well, if I start saving 12 to 15% of all that I earn from the day that I start working, by the time I'm 60 or 65 years old, I'll be able to retire with financial dignity and live life well. And that is 100% true as long as nothing bad happens.
Ooh, can't ever guarantee that.
That's right. If there's not a divorce in the mix, or a child that's on drugs, or there's medical issues, there's an array of things that come into play. So
Heck, even a roof replacement, things that you know that are coming, you think, well, hey, every month I just have, this is my nut. These are the expenses. But then there's the stuff that you have to replace only every 10 or 15 years, a car, or like I said, a roof or a water heater. Even those things can ding you big time if you're not prepared to absorb that.
And it's not the things that you expect that knock somebody out financially. It's the things where you get blindsided financially and you don't see it coming. Kind of like stepping into the boxing ring with Mike Tyson. Anybody that wants to take that suicide walk, they jump in there and they're going to watch every single fight that he's ever been in, so they know to watch out for that left hook. But if they're not aware of it, that's when they get knocked out. And so all too frequently, people will live their lives planning it and structuring it so that, okay, all of this will work as long as nothing bad happens. And that's when they get knocked out and get wiped out financially.
Well, you're a registered investment advisor. You have a fiduciary responsibility to help people make those decisions correctly, and they trust you with that. So if somebody comes to you the early part of this process, they go to jbezfinancial.com, they schedule the consultation, they come into the office or do the call, do the virtual meeting, whatever it is, what is the first question you might ask them?
Great question. Well, really what I want to find out is what matters to them the most. And oftentimes the things that people are concerned about, whether it be financially or otherwise, are normally centered around a topic that they haven't wanted to address for some time. And so invariably, when people go to address what needs to get addressed, it's surrounding a topic where there's a lot of emotional anxiety surrounding it. So I want to put that at ease, and knowing that, and I want to commend people really for taking that initial step to address something that they haven't necessarily been all that comfortable wanting to address. But we know in your guts, there's that gut feeling people have that I've got to take care of this. And with where the economy is now, where the market is now, and where there's so much instability, people have that really hard feeling in their guts right now that they've got to do something. And what I want to propose is the assurance that if you have the courage to address that gut feeling that you have, step out of your comfort zone enough to be able to sit down and talk with me initially, by the time we're done, you'll feel way better, because knowing that there is a plan and there is something you can do about creating more financial stability, taking those initial steps, it takes courage, but it's worth it.
It seems like so much more of what you're talking about here is mental than financial. And coming up on the next episode here, Glenn, we're going to talk more about how to get ourselves into that better state to make these decisions better, because a lot of it starts at home, not at the Jabez Financial office. But we do want you to go to Jabez Financial so you can schedule the consultation with Glenn or his team there, jabezfinancial.com. And Glenn, I know you want people listening to this podcast and sharing it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we go to the manumitpodcast.com, bookmark, subscribe that, like it, leave a review. And if you heard something here today, maybe you've already benefited from something you've heard or benefited from a consultation or getting with Glenn and his team, send it to a friend, all right? Don't hide it under a bushel. No, let it shine, okay? Take it around, pass it around. So manumitpodcast.com, we're out in the podcatchers as well, and be sure people get that. Well, Glenn, hope you have a wonderful time ahead of you here, and I look forward to doing the next episode where we can talk more about that mindset.
Same here, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Manumit Podcast and Glenn Johnson, your registered investment advisor. Again, hook up with them at jabezfinancial.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Glenn Johnson Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.